We are live. We are live. People are on. What's up, guys? The keynote starts in 261 seconds. So if you want the link, go over to my YouTube or click the link on my story. About a year ago today, I was in Austin, Texas, pursuing this vision that I had. We've taken a big risk. Could fall on our faces. Probably a lot of people would advise us not to do this. But we're doing it anyway because we believe in the vision.
But so many of them just flattened out here. We can bring them out.
Just a natural medication. Just a meditation. Just a clarity vacation. Just that I don't really know where to start. All right, guys. Getting it kicked off. Kicking it off now. Let's get it going. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to dive right in. Let me just make sure you guys can see me okay here. Check from my phone. All right, looks good. So where are you guys from? Just type in the chat where you guys are from. Okay. All right, guys. So I've been working on this this keynote for quite a while. Let's see. Are non-Jews allowed? Yes. Jews are allowed. Non-Jews are allowed. Muslims are allowed. Christians. Very excited to rip into this with you guys. Let's see if we can. Hide toolbar. There we go. That looks better. Okay. So I'm going to start here any moment now. Let's just see. Let's just get quick pulse on the chat. We have like a bunch of people on right now. So let me just make sure you guys are alive in the chat. The chat's active. So just type where you're from in the chat. So we have someone from France, Miami, New York, Pittsburgh. Nice. My family's actually from Pittsburgh. I'm actually going to. All right. Vancouver. Nice. Okay. Greece. Cool. Okay, guys. So let's dive in. So my story is of somebody that had everything that you're supposed to want, you know, at least by the standards of the world. I had money coming in every month. You know, I had the lifestyle. I had a global network of friends. I had materialism in abundance. You know, I had everything that social media said that you should want to have, especially as a young man. And I had a beautiful girlfriend, but this is, you know, by the end of 2023, I still would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have this like feeling of almost like glass in my chest. And I just couldn't figure out like what was wrong with me. Like I tried so many things to figure it out and I just couldn't. And so my question for you guys is, you know, where do you look for happiness when you feel like you got everything materially that is supposed to make you happy, and you just still wake up with a feeling like just massive anxiety and fear? Like, where do you look? If you've gotten everything you wanted on your vision board and whatever, like where else are you supposed to find happiness? You still feel that pain and fear in your chest. So to look for answers to this question, many of you know this story. I spent an entire year basically meditating. Reading all the spiritual texts. I moved next door to an ashram. I spoke to people of every single faith. I was completely open minded to try to find the answer to this thing. And I also was exploring the depths of my creativity. I converted basically my entire apartment, which again was next to this like spiritual center. I converted it into a music studio, and I spent the whole year just making music, and I produced an album. And then in January of 2025, my neighborhood burned to the ground in the Palisades fires. And today, I'm going to share with you guys how this search, spiritual searching, the creation and the destruction led to a vision that was, so powerful that it literally manifested in real time before my eyes. And so what I'm going to reveal to you guys today, I really believe that it could be one of the most important things that you watch. I've put like years of time into this. And I really think that it can fundamentally shift the trajectory of where you're going. And it will also culminate in potentially one of the most important invitations that you ever receive. So this is the story of what some might even call like a prophecy, divine prophecy that appears to come true in real time. And it's pretty mind-blowing. So in the midst of this fire, right? Here's the view of the Palisades and where we lived. It's also right now, 10 years, my 10-year anniversary of getting into business as a creative, as an artist. And in reflection, I realized that I've cleared millions of dollars, purely as what I would consider to be an artist, doing clothing, doing software, consulting, brand deals, even being paid to play music. And making $1 million a year, I realize like there's some people that are going to be watching this that are far more experienced in business than I am, and have probably made many more millions than I have. And I'm not, like a business guru by any means. However, one of the keys to this, an aspect of this keynote here, is that like I figured out how to make money basically doing like whatever I want, which frees you to live a life that you actually enjoy, that you feel fulfilled by, that you feel like creatively stoked by, you feel alive. That feeling of aliveness is so key. I find so many entrepreneurs like really care about that feeling of aliveness. So I'm going to show you by the end of this, exactly how, and the math of how I've built, a multi-million-dollar business, by doing the work that, it feels like I'm the only person on earth that could do this work. Like it's like imprinted on me. Like I'm not just doing a copy paste thing that got some course online. Like I'm not doing some boring thing like cash flow thing. Like it's like, this is my legacy. Like this is every day I wake up, I'm thrilled to do this work. And so one thing I ask of you guys, I mentioned I've literally put years of work into this. Like I had a vision of like this exact keynote in around 2024. So a couple of years ago. And of course the story and everything backdates further than that. But what I'm saying is like, I've put a lot of time and effort into this keynote. So, what I ask from you is just participation. So if I ask a question, I want to see a little like participation in, like, if I ask you something, comment on the video or respond in the chat if you're here live. And, don't make me feel like I'm talking to myself. Like I will check intermittently in the chat. And I will, be watching that. So, make sure that if you're here, you're active, right? So in the chat, if you could comment like truth right now, or agree, or, this is great, or, whatever, where you're from is good as well. I just want to make sure that we have an agreement and that we are, we're on the same page here. So I'll check out the chat for a moment. Okay, cool. Okay. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover my story of how I was able to make millions of dollars as an artist over the last decade. We're going to talk about the cheat codes of what I call the artist paradigm and new technology, new 8 a.m. technology that I've created specifically for creative people, for artists. And now we'll go over the 3 problems that I had to overcome. So before we go any further, if you guys could, again, be active in the chat. This is my one ask here. How many of you feel like you're dealing with any of these problems? So the first one is, and these are problems that I dealt with, right? I got lost in the material sauce, the materialism sauce, in a trap that paid. So basically, I had a bunch of stuff, and you don't even have to have that much of an abundance, but like, have you gotten lost in like lifestyle sauce, lifestyle creep? Like, you got some cars, you got some watches, you got like whatever, girls, and then you just want more, right? And the other side of that is not only are you like getting this comfort of this like material lifestyle, but you also built what might be called like a trap that pays you. So it's like the business that was supposed to give you freedom, actually, like, you find yourself just like being kind of consumed by it, and it's actually the exact thing that's keeping you from what you actually really want to do. Like, you're making money, maybe you're getting like a little bit of fulfillment out of it, but you just know it's not really what you want to do. And it's kind of like this, it's like this materialism trap. Anybody relate to that one? I'll define artists in a bit, by the way. Does anyone relate to this one? How about this? The someday paradigm. So the someday paradigm is basically, there's something that you really want to create, like whether it's an album or a business or a YouTube channel or something, and you've just pushed it like far over the arbitrary cognitive horizon. Like, it's just someday, right? Like after next quarter. Or maybe this is a big one, like you bought some DJ decks or something and they're just getting dusty. Like, you just don't use them. Or you bought a camera to shoot YouTube videos or make documentary films, whatever the thing is, like you bought something and you're like, like I don't have time for that because XYZ. And you come up with some sort of like reason that you can't do it, and it just kind of collects dust. Anybody relate to this one? I find that a lot of guys, especially who are, building businesses, like they get stuck in this a lot. Like the creativity kind of just dies. It kind of just dies. Golden handcuffs. Golden handcuffs. So the third is facing the fact of no respectable legacy. This is where like you're building a business and you're building something, like something creative, and you kind of look at it and you almost just like don't even want to tell anybody about it. Like you're just like, well, this is what I spent all my time on. But then like somebody you really respect asks you, what you spend your time doing, and you just are like, you don't want to say it. It's like you kind of feel like you're just drifting in space doing what you're doing. Money might be coming in, but you're just not really lit up by it, and you don't want to tell people. And it's just this like thing that you're just doing to sort of get by. And again, maybe it is like making a lot of money, but you just don't really, you're not like, it's not your legacy. Like you wouldn't want to like have it on your tombstone. Who relates to that one? Now, I'll just be honest with you guys. If you don't relate to these, this keynote's probably not for you, and I don't want to waste your time. But if you do, then yeah, this is going to be super valuable. So yeah. So let's continue. So here's like a few examples, right? So this is for you if you can fit yourself into these X and Y variables here, right? So you might be, for example, making like $30,000 a month running your agency, doing an agency, but what you really want to be doing is Y. So in a certain case, someone I've spoken to recently, he has an agency, but what he really wants to be doing is running consciousness retreats. Like he's super into kind of like psychedelic healing plants, and he just keeps coming up with logical reasons why he's not doing it. Another example would be one of the other really good friend of mine, actually. He's making like $1 million a month in the info space, is like a education business, and he really wants to be a streamer. Like he is a streamer. Like that's his expertise. That's like you see him on a stream and he's so funny, but then he starts doing this like boring business content, and like it just doesn't hit the same at all. And the views reflect it as well. And he keeps telling himself for some reason or another that he can't do streaming full time. He just has all this myriad of excuses. Right. Now, another one is this is somebody else that is actually in the 8am network. He's got an agency. He's doing like a couple $100,000 a month. And when I met him, he was like, I actually really want to, remove myself from this business. And he wants to like become a pro surfer. And he's really good at surfing, but he's just like kind of drowning in this business. And for whatever reason, he's just not, going all in. I would say the other archetype that might relate to this keynote that would probably be really useful is just the artist that's like not making that much money, and you just want to learn how to make more and just be able to live off of to be honest, like just live off your passion. There's so many people on the internet, especially in like the business advice space, who are just like, don't follow what you're passionate about. And I just look at that and I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. Like following my passion. And I think that anybody telling you otherwise is actually could probably benefit from watching this keynote. So let's continue. So I've interviewed like hundreds of entrepreneurs and creatives, and you can read some of these statistics here. In the last couple of months, I've interviewed about 50. I recorded every single call and I have the transcripts from all of them. And what I found is that, not one person in this like category, and if you're here, you may relate to this. When I asked them this question of how they would rate their current level of like joy and abundance that they're feeling in life, not one person rated it above 65% out of 100%. The average was about 35%, and the lowest was the founder CEO that I just mentioned, who said his baseline joy and happiness was 20%. Right? Like he's basically at a failing grade for the amount of joy and happiness that he feels in life. And I think that's pretty shocking. People just aren't fulfilled and aren't happy. And this is something that, I found so many guys are struggling with right now. And it's where I was a little while ago. And it's this: if I were to die today, I don't think I'd be satisfied. Every day I have more of my own projects I'd love to pour into, and I'm just not. So that's what this keynote is about, guys. So here's what few will tell you. The world is invisibly designed to make you want to chase getting rich only to feel empty. And you've been programmed to treat yourself like a machine, when what you really crave is to remember how to live like an artist. And I believe that we're all born artists, and the world just does everything that it can to make us forget. It makes the false path the loudest and the most tempting, and paved with promises that it never keeps. And what you deeply desire is to finally throw yourself into the work that only you can do. And while the artist path is quiet and uncommon, and even if you do hear it, it feels impossible to follow. And so someone asked this earlier, what is an artist? How do I define it? I basically describe an artist as someone who lives from the feel act paradigm. So simply put, an artist is just someone who they feel an intuition, like an insight, they get an insight to create something, and then they act on that insight despite it not being in accordance with logic. Right? So to be an artist, you have to be quiet enough to hear that voice of intuition, and only like real artists will even understand what I'm talking about at all. So again, if this is just like flying over your head, probably not for you. But if it is, then this should be hitting. So what an artist does is they basically pull something out of the unmanifest realm, whatever you want to call that doesn't exist, and they pull it into existence. And they go from basically and this keynote, the purpose of this keynote is to go from basically a trap that pays you but drains your soul to making millions of dollars or more, creating your life's work and creating, something that doesn't exist. You're not just copy pasting. You're not just doing something that you don't like. You're doing something that you're pouring your heart and soul into. The transition is to the Picasso, the Virgil, the Steve Jobs. So, how did I get here? Right. This is kind of my short little background story, and I'll make it brief, not to dwell on this. But as I tell you guys my story, there should be. I wanted to make this very jam packed. There should be some key lessons you can kind of pull from this. But basically, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. That's me as a kid there. My mom and dad there, and my mom's a painter and art professor, and my dad is a photographer. So down in the bottom left, that's actually my mom's art studio. This was in the backyard growing up. And then my dad, you can see him in the top right there. He was always like traveling with a camera, taking photos, and like he'd go deep into like the jungles of Mexico and just find like people in just like small communities and just photograph them. And he's a designer as well. And from a very early age, I had a camera in my hands. I was putting piano lessons super young, and I also played sports. It was basically like be creative. The family values were like be creative every single day, like insane levels of just creative output every day, and be healthy. Right? Those are like kind of the two messages, and that was pretty much my upbringing. There, you'll see one thing in the bottom right next to the hockey photo. That is one of my dad's like more recent drawings, which is like pretty cool. My dad's got some pretty tapped in stuff, as you guys will see if you check him out ever. And so what happened was, I got to college, I watched the movie The Social Network, and my grandfather was a businessman, so I definitely had I knew there was like some business element to me. I watched The Social Network with Zuckerberg. I saw the scene where he is sitting in class and one of his friends is like, "Hey, Mark, do you know if Mary is single?" And he's like, "I don't know. People don't walk around with a sign on their chest that says if they're in a relationship or not." And then he gets the idea for the like button, and he sprints home in the cold. That's what they're in the top of this. He sprints home in the cold and starts coding the like button. So I saw that and I was like, "That's what I want to do." Like, I want to have a creative project that I'm so excited about and like I'm so into that I will like sprint out when I get an idea for it. Right. So yeah. Yeah, it was super inspiring. And as I said, my mom, I grew up as a painter. So I grew up, my mom a painter, my dad a photographer. So like my parents are making like 40 grand a year. I was always like the poor kid. I always had the worst hockey gear. And so I think like when I got to college, I was just like, I have to figure out how to make money, and there was this idea of like the starving artist, there was this idea of like artists are just, you do get like soul fulfillment and stuff when you're being creative. But at the end of the day, like if you pursue, what you really want to do, you're going to be poor, So I spent a lot of time like trying to figure this out. And I worked on SMMA early on. I found like the early, online courses. I was getting into drop shipping. I was getting into like any way I could figure out how to make money. I was trying to code. This is like 2015, by the way. I was trying anything to figure out how to make money. And around my sophomore year, although I had failed at everything, the one thing that finally clicked was starting this YouTube channel. And so I started YouTube. I was posting every single day, 8 a.m. And I was in film school. And keep in mind, I had a camera in my hands from a super young age. And because of that, I got a lot of, I had a lot of like pre-existing skill going into YouTube. So I had kind of a leg up on, the you might say like the YouTube competition. And I started posting every day and it kind of blew up, right? I hit like 100,000 subs in the first year. And the first business that was actually successful was called 8 a.m. and it was a clothing brand. And that was like incredible. I remember the first dollars I made online was like insanely exciting. It was just like this rush of like, wow, like you can actually pull dollars out of something you like to do. So after the clothing brand, fast forward a few years, the next thing I did is I launched the app, and I basically made this app myself. I didn't know how to code, but I just like stuck to it, and I had this vision for this app. It was called Maxi. If you guys remember Maxi, comment on this video if you're like a Maxi OG or even a YouTube OG. I'd love to see if there's some OGs watching this. The idea was like pretty simple, and I just figured out how to code it up and brought it to life. And after that, I built a community called Tribe Accelerator. And this was like an online network, a paid community. And I built it to about 800 global members. So we were hosting global events. This one on the bottom left here is Portugal. It was hosted on School. And it was like super well known. And if you guys look at like the Tribe material, you'll see that it was like you'll see how influential it was. If you're in it, I'd love to see if there's tribe guys here. But if you were in the Tribe community, you'll see the impact that it had, because so many people learned how to network and do events, and also like how to post on Instagram. Like it was basically teaching personal branding and how to brand yourself in a way that would like attract business, attract high level people. It was super successful, right? So that was that business. And through that, I ended up working with hundreds of business entities because I was advising the founders on like personal brand. And I was even charging upwards of like $50,000 for, one-on-one consulting. And I had over 20,000 customers between Maxi and 8 a.m., the clothing, and Tribe. So I worked with like a lot of founders over the years. And so of course, all this sounds really good on paper, but again, like as I mentioned at the beginning, all I had really done was just build these golden handcuffs. And so even worse than that, I just kind of got lost in the sauce. I just got lost in it. And I was anxious pretty much every single day. I felt like I had this constant stress, like this feeling, it felt like there was glass in my chest. And so what I did at the end of 2023 is that it was feeling this for like a long time, like a lot of 2023. I just fired my whole team on a single Google Meet call. And I just felt like I didn't have a choice. Like I felt like I was being pressed up against a wall to do this. And I had to figure out what was wrong. And so I spent the next year meditating. I moved next door to an ashram. It happened to be, the ashram was a guy named Paramahansa Yogananda. That's a whole nother story. But he was Steve Jobs. His favorite book was by Yogananda. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi. I moved next door to this ashram that I had already been rereading the autobiography of a yogi. And I moved next door to the ashram without knowing that it was in a picture of it in the back of the book. So it just felt like this weird divine prophecy. Like it was being summoned by the Indian guru. And SRF, like that organization was so cool because they respect and they study all the major religions. Like if you go there, it's called Lake Shrine. It's beautiful. It's a sanctuary. It's like, and they have like the emblems of all the major religions. And then they talk about all of them. And I was just studying like crazy, like every single religious text. I would interview Christians, interview Muslims, interview Buddhists. I just wanted to know the truth, right? And growing up, my mom's Jewish, my dad's Catholic, so I didn't really have like a bias, and both my parents were kind of like artist hippies too. So I was just like, I was open to truth. I was open to like whatever without any fear, right? And meanwhile, I was focusing on making music as well. I had gone to one of these like monastic, they would do lectures every Sunday. And one of the lectures was like, the monk was saying, if there's something you've been putting off creatively that you want to try, you don't have to commit to it forever. You could just try it on like you're trying on clothes at the store. And that really hit me. And I had always told myself I would pursue music, but I told myself I would do it after I make $20 million. That was like my number. I was like, I make 20 mil, then I can go do artist stuff because it's impractical. And I was like, why don't I just try it? Like trying on clothes. So I tried it. 1 week experiment ended up turning into like an 8 month, basically the whole rest of the year. And keep in mind, I had shut down my business. So I had no cash flow. And here I was just like full porting into being an artist. So that was that was like pretty intense. I was just like full on, like I shifted identities completely. Like I'm just a praying, meditating, Christ seeking music artist now. And if you read the song titles of the album and listen to it, like it's pretty it's pretty intense of a project. But what happened was, like, as I started to do this, especially with like the prayer, like that knot in my chest just started to loosen up. And like slowly I realized like it was just gone. And I just had increasing amounts of joy and ecstasy kind of just like flowing through me, that all I wanted to do was just share it through the work that I was doing. So the craziest part, right? I produced this album. I kind of miraculously got together this group of incredible videographers to help shoot this like full 45-minute album music video out in the mountains, and that's on YouTube as well, of course. I'm sure many of you have seen it. And I even got flown out to Sweden, to Stockholm, by a record label owner to play my album, right? And it was just like, it felt like, wow, everything was like I'd kind of surrendered to this creative urge and everything was going well. I wasn't really making money yet. I was kind of just burning my savings, but things seemed to be tracking in a good direction. But just as things were heating up, so to speak, the Palisades fire happened. And what was crazy about it, this is why I say it's divine prophecy, is I took this photo that is the 8am album cover it was in 4th of July. So about a year ago, 2 years ago, pretty much today. Actually, I think it might've been the 3rd of July. And it was unedited photos, a red sky. And the album, the second song on the album is called Through the Fire. And then 4 months later, after the album is out, the Palisades fire happens. And my building was one of the only buildings that didn't burn down, which is crazy. However, we were kicked out. There's me and my girlfriend, Chloe, now fiance. Get into that in a bit. But we had no clothes. Like, we couldn't get back into our apartment. And we actually did leave the door open. So even though the apartment didn't burn down, smoke had just like rushed through the apartment. In the interim, like in the first, 30 days, we didn't know what was going to happen at all. Like, the fire raged for over a month and just destroyed everything, everything. And we didn't know if like we were going to have anything, or all we had when we didn't get to leave with anything, because we just had like enough time to have essentially like a backpack. So we had to go to Zara. Insurance didn't give us any money, So here we are, like I'd already spent a year like burning into my savings in the Palisades. And then I was kind of forced to get like a job, basically. My good friend was running this startup and basically offered me like a consulting job in New York. And I was like, my back was kind of against the wall. I was like, I'll just kind of take it. Like, my life just burned down. I don't really have anything. The music didn't make money. So sure, I'll do it. So I was in this office pretty much every day from the beginning of January to like all throughout that winter. But what happened was I started to get really claustrophobic. Like, a few months in, it was pretty evident that the corporate kind of like walls just didn't, like, I actually was really impactful. I helped recruit a lot of super helpful people to the company that added a ton of value. The business actually, about 9 months later, with like some of the people that I helped bring in, ended up getting an acquisition offer for around $100 million. So what I did was definitely helpful in the time I was there, but I just couldn't. It was only about 3 months that I pretty much lasted. And what happened was I started to like look at the lights, and the lights were like flickering. And I don't know how to describe it. Like there was just fluorescent, like flickering lights. And I was like, this is like, it was driving me nuts. And so one night I started to get these visions. And I got these visions and I basically started to like make that. I used AI like Midjourney to put these images into like a image. I think I used Midjourney and then maybe Grok, but I took the images, made videos, and then I sat in the company office, which was here, and I edited this video till like 2 a.m. And this, like, I started to really feel alive again. So now I'm going to show you guys that video of basically what I had seen in that vision.
Welcome to a new way of living, a sacred rhythm for the modern soul, a convergence of ancient stillness and future intelligence. This is 8 a.m. World. Creators, visionaries, spiritual architects. Silence is honored. Each day begins not with chaos, but with breath. Mist rises, a stream flows, creative freedom ignites. A return to the rhythm of spirit and creation. Divine Mother becomes a teacher. Guests gather and lift stone-crafted weights in nature's dew. Energy flows. Ideas are exchanged. Eating food is sacred. Organic foods, fuel for the body, served with reverence. Afternoon brings inspiration. Monks echo through amphitheaters carved from the earth. And then vibration becomes language. We end the night with brief meditation, honoring God, friendship, and exhilaration. This is 8 a.m. World.
So that was the vision. That was the vision. So I, at the same time, had also been working on music. I'd started working on music again, which was really fulfilling, and put out a couple new tracks. The songs in that video were from the new music that I put out, and I was like, okay, I think I've got to like somehow stick to this like 8 a.m. thing, but I don't know how it's going to make money. Like, I'm really passionate about this, but like, how is it gonna work? You know, I need to somehow make money. I think that's what a lot of artists go through. They're just, how can this thing possibly make money? So then what happened was, like, shortly after I put it out, we actually got this toxicity report. You guys remember that our apartment had the crack in the window, and we got this report back, and it turned out there was like super harmful pesticides throughout the whole unit, which basically meant that like all our stuff was just wrecked, which sucked a lot. And we had no money from insurance. We fined the Palisades, and this is like befores and afters. Everything was like, I can't even begin to tell you guys how insane the devastation was. It looked like a bomb went off. Like everything. This is like the church, you know, This is basically what it looked like. Every house would just look like a chimney or like some iron structures. There used to be obviously full-on houses here. And then just some lingering trees. You know, it was just completely like devastating. So we got back to our apartment. One of the only things that survived, ironically, was this painting by this painter that I really admire. His name is Sage Willows. And the painting is called The Way, the Truth, and the Light. And it had no dust on it. It was like one of the only things that you can see there's like dust all over the floor. We had to wear these like, I shouldn't say dust. The right word is like ash. It was ash. We had to wear these like things around our shoes. You're not allowed to breathe in the air because it's like a kill you, like the pesticides. So what I then did, and this is kind of like what could get me in trouble, but I started posting on Instagram again. And I was just like, I was at the startup. I wasn't stoked, but I was like, I know how to build a community. So I started posting these like this idea, like I'm starting this Jewish cabal. And, remember I had built an online network in the past, and there's networks like Soho House. I ran Tribe Accelerator to 800 members. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to build a network around these sort of new values. And the way that I initially got attention for it was this Jewish cabal meme. It was just, I just got attention, and then I drove it to something that people cared about. Unfortunately, when you work at like a fintech in a heavily regulated like banking sector, you can't like be an employee or contractor of the company and talk about being in like a Jewish cabal like that, and like how Jews run the world and stuff. Even though I am Jewish, right? Technically, you just can't. So like the CEO and I were like, okay, we gotta part ways. But what ended up happening is I got like hundreds of applications for this network through this viral content. And like people just they thought it was hilarious and they wanted to just be a part of this network. And I just charged $5,000 for the network, and we onboarded like I think it was like, I don't know the math, 30 people or so. And so just like that, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a full-time artist again. And what I did is I full ported into this vision, like that vision I just showed you. We had an event in Austin. This is in Austin, Texas. Like maybe like 3 weeks after leaving the company, I threw together this event, and I was like, all right, Austin, Texas, it's a white party. We invested like $20,000 from the member fees that we bought into this event that we made. And we got like a cool space, and we made it look exactly like that mossy sort of vision. We had the 8 a.m. chocolates, the tea. There's Chloe and I. Chloe was like a killer for this event. We had the stage. I played some new music. And it just looked like, as you can see in the bottom left there, that was like my AI vision that I had. And then there was like the real life sushi that we actually catered for the event. And then after that, played some of my music. After that, we did 8 a.m. New York. And so we did the same thing like a week and a half or 2 weeks later in New York City. We had about 100 people show up to each event. I got creative again from like a design perspective. And I started to like really feel alive. These events were like, and again, like I was onboarding new members into the community, and it was like starting to work again. Shortly after I relaunched a clothing brand, 8 a.m. I basically put everything under the 8 a.m. umbrella, right? It was before I had all these separate things. I was like, I'm just going to put everything under this 8 a.m. umbrella. And so we did 8 a.m. New York, DJ'd another party, had like 100 people show. You can see I had that vision video that I showed you guys in the background there. And then we flew to Bali. I just felt like called to Bali. And in Bali, if any of you have ever been, if not, it's like one of my favorite places on the planet. It's very like naturey, obviously. Everyone's into meditation and yoga and like healthy eating. So I basically waking up and meditating, eating the healthiest food, like healthy breakfast, being super creative throughout the entire day, and staying in like an amazing villa, going to this incredible gym. It's called Bamboo Gym. And then I threw an event, and the event I was DJing parties here and there, but I threw this event and we had like 150 person people show up, decorated the whole thing to match, again, the vision, like in real life. And this was like by far the best event that we had done, right? It just really matched like what I saw in my head. And then one day, my friend Shaden texted me. This is Shaden. And he had just bought like a big plot of land in Bali. And he invited me to go check it out and like kind of see his vision. And you guys might pick up on it here, but these are his stairs, right? That he bought. And I looked at it, I was like, wait a second. And I compared it to like the AI vision video that's on the right here. And I was like, holy shit, this looks exactly like the thing I saw in my head. And then I realized like all my camera roll looked exactly like the camera roll from Bali looked exactly like the vision board that I had made. And the gym even looked like the gym that I was going to. And Chloe sleeping next to me, like the light on her face and like this shot that I got of myself meditating, it all seemed to start to line up. Even the party that I threw, it looked like the party from the 8 a.m. vision video. And so that's when the idea hit me, like, why don't I just book a bunch of villas, like a community of villas, and actually put together like an insane event? So I found this property. It's on this 200-foot cliff. There's 21 villas on the property, and they're all like, they looked exactly like my vision. Looks like this. This is exactly, this is kind of the main cliff front here. It's one of the other villas. It's what it looks like from above. And I booked out all the villas and I started posting this vision on YouTube. I started sharing it with people, and we had about 20 guys commit to signing up to this thing. And killers from every sector, from the fintech space to some guys doing AI stuff, AI agencies, to full-time music artists, to people in like real world industries like construction and copper mining and guys who work in like e-com in Silicon Valley, like all over the map. Just a super cool group of guys. And then this is in February. I made one of the biggest, I guess you would say. So I just made one of the biggest business and creative commitments in my life. I booked out 21 villas, fronting hundreds of thousands of dollars for this thing, right? You're committing to paying hundreds. I had to put down a deposit, but I committed to this. Then I basically got a spiritual baptism through this, through SRF, which is the ashram that I mentioned. And it just made the most sense to me because that's a longer discussion, but I basically got like baptized. And by the way, I've been like actually baptized, and like I've done like the Muslim prayer thing, like the Muslim conversion, and I've also had a bar mitzvah. So like you do what you want with that. Shortly after that, like I started designing this ring. As you guys can see, it kind of matches the whole 8 a.m. idea, right? You can see the 8 in there. And I proposed to my girlfriend of 4 years, Chloe, and you can just see like she just could not believe it. Like she was just, I mean, she knew it was coming, but the way I did it, like I basically did our first date in reverse, and she's basically branded for life now. And so at this point, I felt like, wow, I feel like I found everything that I was looking for. I got the creative fulfillment. I figured out how to make money again. I had the clothing operation going, the community business, and now I have this event that I'm putting together. And so I wanted to do a little bit more research on this. And so I moved to New York for about a month and a half. And every day I was taking calls with creatives, with founders and people that were not even necessarily, maybe they worked a 9 to 5 at some kind of business, but like creatives overall. And I took about 50 calls, recorded them. They'd be anywhere from 60 minutes to 2 hours. I would call them creative direction calls, where I would basically interview these guys and see like what they were going through. And I found that the same problems that I had at the end of 2023, there were a lot of guys that had the same problems. And so I had this like series of like 35 questions that you could ask people, and it would just get to the root of this core issue that they were dealing with. And so I would then take the transcripts of these calls and put them into Claude, and I would find these patterns. And then I would get back to them and I would give them this report that basically, and you can see I'd put everything in Claude. I would give them this report that would show them the exact reasons they're not pursuing what they really want to pursue, what that like creative calling is, like that ultimate thing that they should throw themselves into if they were feeling a little directionless, and then also like the cure for that pain in their chest feeling. And so the constant feedback that I was getting, this was some of the things guys were saying on the calls. Like that business was something I did out of financial insecurity. It was something I was good at, but it's not why I'm here. Or not being able to speak the truth out of fear, creating a buildup of resentment that I was just carrying around. Other guys were saying, I feel like I have a deep reason to be here, a reason to contribute that's just not being expressed. Another guy said, the real me is giving myself permission to actually be on camera instead of the version that isn't me. This was another common kind of response. Like, I'm traveling around the world. I've got a girlfriend. I can provide for my parents and family. So what the fuck is missing? I'm living a cool life and making money. I just want something that sparks a fire in me. So then I started, bringing guys into the community, and I had been working on this app and also giving guys this like consulting, like one-to-one consulting. And the feedback was incredible. Like, basically people finally felt what I was feeling in 2024, which is like a creative unleash, like a spiritual kind of unleash, openness to do what they really wanted. This he's making like a couple $100,000 a month and was just drowning in his business. I basically just helped him replace himself in the business and free his time so that he could just do whatever he wanted. And what he found was without the back-to-back calls, he was like, he actually had a problem. Like he realized he didn't know what to do with himself. And so we had to kind of go into that. I feel like a momentum of energy behind me, and it's effortless passion, and it feels good. So I basically found out there are a lot of people like me that it feels like this, right? Most people I see are kind of just drifting. And I've been talking about drifting for a while, but it sort of feels like you're in outer space and you don't really have, no matter how hard you try, you have to exert a lot of force for people to care about what you're doing to make money. Like whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're sort of just drifting. When what I saw in my own experience and with these guys that I was helping is that as soon as they shifted into what I call the creative singularity, which is like, you can think of a black hole or a singularity event. It's like when you're doing the thing and it says it at the bottom left of this keynote, every single slide, when you're unleashing everything that only you were made to create, gravity just rearranges itself around you. Like you're almost like a black hole, and people, circumstances, people come out of the woodworks and you hear from them when you haven't heard from them in years. When you start doing the thing that only you can do, life just gets way different, like way better. People treat you differently. You get responses and you just get momentum. Right? So that's what I call the creative singularity. It's the mode of being where you're spiritually clear, doing creative work that only you can do, and gravity just rearranges itself around you. So now we're going to go into what I call the cheat codes. And these are the 8 a.m. cheat codes for living in the creative singularity. So we'll go over all of these one by one. The first one is what I call mapping your joy thermostat. All right. So what this means is you want to ask yourself this question. On a scale of 0 to 100%, how much joy, love, and abundance do I allow myself to experience on a day-to-day basis? Right? Just like whatever the answer is, just like you could type it in the chat if you feel like it, or comment on this video. Like, actually, that'd be great if you guys could type it so we could have some back and forth, because I've been talking a while here. What would you say is if you had to give yourself a rating, 0 to 100%, The amount of joy, love, and abundance that you're allowing yourself to experience on a daily basis. What is that? So say it's 50%, right? We call that your ceiling. And what happens is every time you peak and you hit that that threshold, you kind of get your body gets uncomfortable and you start to sort of self-sabotage and you start to bring yourself back down. Right? So I've seen this so many times. Like I have somebody that's a really successful entrepreneur, but what he really wants to be doing is actually like martial arts acting. And every time he starts to post content about it, like this guy's like, crazy talented martial artist, but he just doesn't post the content. Right. And when he does post the content, he goes viral. Every time he starts to gain momentum, he kind of goes back and stops doing it, or he comes up with an excuse about why he shouldn't do it. So that's why it's important to be aware of like that threshold, because when you start to hit that peak, you can kind of sort out when you're going to start self-sabotaging, and you can then figure out how to actually blow past it. The next cheat code is to give silence the first ounce of your attention every day. To quote Christ, seek ye the kingdom of God first. Right? That's what the first song on the 8 a.m. album is, seek God first. What that means is like when you wake up, don't touch your phone. Certainly don't, go into work. Block out time, 30 minutes to an hour, where it's just you and consciousness, you and silence, you and, if you're religious, you and God, right? You and Christ, right? Like whatever that means to you. Okay. If you do this first thing, this is the biggest of everything I'm sharing. Like, we'll get into more practical stuff, but like this is the most practical thing. It's like you must start the day with seek God first. Like that is absolutely fundamental. So the next one is, actually a little bit more on this one. So why do you do this? Well, so what happens is there's these things, this is a little bit complicated, but that glass in your chest feeling, it's called a samskara. Okay. And these are like emotional blockages that happen from just various traumatic events throughout your life that you store in your body. And when you don't examine them with like the light of your awareness, they can control you. It's kind of like you're possessed by these traumas in a weird way. And so when you spend time in like prayer and meditation, ideally in the morning and at night, you can actually like loosen these. Like you can pray over them and you can loosen them, and then your energy channels can flow, and you can speak your voice, like you speak your truth more easily. You can take action in the direction of what you want more easily. You can take action even when everything else is more like completely unknown or unclear. When the path feels like there's no answer, there's no way out. When you have clear flowing energy throughout your system, you're free. You're creatively free. So this is what I was doing. I was praying and meditating every single day, twice a day, sometimes more. The third cheat code is to full port into nonlinear vision. Okay. So I realized that every great decision that I've ever made basically came from a gut instinct. And a good example of this is Elon, right? Like Elon, when he, made his money from PayPal, many of you may know this story, like he just full ported into Tesla. And people told him he was so stupid. They're like, why would you, it's like, I think it was like $50 million. He put it all into Tesla and SpaceX. And people are like, electric cars, like, what are you talking about? And of course, you all know how the story goes. He's now a trillionaire, like world's first trillionaire, which is obviously quite absurd. So it's the same thing. Another example is this Bali vision. Like I had this vision and I just full ported into it. Like I just was like, fuck it. Like I'm going to just book these villas and just see what happens. I don't know if I can fill them all out, but we're going to try. And it's going well so far. Right. Of course, same thing I did with the 8 a.m. stuff. Like I full ported. Like I was meditating every day, and I built like the transition system properly, but I was meditating daily, praying daily, and just doing this stuff, this music stuff. Right. So The fourth cheat code. This is to drop importance. This one's like easier said than done, but you may like it's this one helps a lot when like you have to kind of maybe do like a Claude session with this one. Like you could go and try this, like where you just like talk to Claude and you're like, you just tell it like everything that you're focused on, and you tell it this principle like to drop importance. The reason you have to drop importance is because when you put something like high up in your mind, you sort of create like excess energy patterns around it. There's an author named Vadim Zeland who talks about this a lot, but one of the big ones is people say like the most important decision in life is who you marry. And think about like that phrasing, like the most important decision. What do you do? Like what do you do when something is so important? You overthink it, you overanalyze, and then when your partner stops doing what you want them to do in alignment with how you think they should be, you get controlling, right? And then you stall. And I see so many guys in this like holding pattern of like the boyfriend girlfriend thing because they're looking for perfection. And why are they looking for perfection? Because they have so much importance around this thing, right? And this applies to like everything, your work, your creative work, your legacy. Like if you just reduce importance and you just serve the moment in front of you and you don't look to take, you look to give, you look to raise every moment in front of you, and you treat every moment as like valuable, then there's no competing forces trying to like sabotage your that can come in and sabotage like what you're doing. Okay, so the next tip here is aiming for prolificacy. So I realized that this was recent. I was in the Picasso Museum in Malaga. I was in a couple of weddings in Europe recently. And this guy Picasso, man, like I've been to like 4 Picasso museums, and you'll like, it's all different art. Like he's got so many creations, and there's like so many famous ones as well. And I realized like Picasso, like the people that I admire the most, Picasso, Andy Warhol, like he had a whole factory that was dedicated to just producing his artwork. And Virgil as well, like Virgil Abloh, founder of Off-White, head Louis Vuitton men's designer for a couple years before his passing. Like if you're just prolific, like that is just like, it's helped me a lot. Okay, just thinking about like, okay, I just got to create more. Just create more. Create. Don't consume. Create. You find yourself watching stuff, you will probably not be as happy as if you spent that time just creating more. And there's like deep metaphysical reasons for that, but that's maybe for another time. The third is to phase out your golden handcuffs in chain links. So one lesson I learned, and I've now taken to my consulting, is that when you're transitioning out of like a multi $1 million business, or even making thousands of dollars a month, whatever, even a job, whatever it is, you're making $90K a year. Don't just like quit the thing, and don't do what I did. Don't just fire everybody on a Zoom call. Okay. What I recommend is phasing out in chain links. So you kind of like set a 6-week exit plan, and you kind of do things step by step. Like you transition gracefully rather than just trying to do it all at once. And there's like reasons for that. Like obviously financial reasons. If you can sort of, for example, you have a company you're not happy with, maybe you can hire an operator and sell the company, right? That might take a few months, might take more, right? But it's better than just like cutting all the income. Or if you have a job, instead of just quitting and like building bad blood, like build a transfer chain. And then you're actually also, especially like, there's a big one. A lot of guys that I've worked with recently, the reason they're not doing their creative calling is actually out of like some serious childhood trauma. Like they've been literally like had been abused or had like a serious traumatic event around the thing that they're actually best at. And that's why they're not doing it. And so you kind of have to introduce it gradually, or else like if you just try to full port into, I know I said full port, but it's a gradual full port. Like you can't just cut everything and go full time. I don't recommend that. I recommend phasing out. Like for example, with Tribe Accelerator, what I should have done is like find the best student to run the business and then like have them continue operating and potentially sell it down the line, rather than just like ending it. Okay. So the next one is, once you have attention, you have money. It's the next cheat code here. And I know I promised that, I would talk about making money here. So that's, I've actually already loosely spoke about all of these ideas, but this should be pretty helpful if you're like artists or just someone that considers himself, wanting to go down this path and are thinking about how to like make money. And then I have another, like, I guess, mindset shift and somewhat like promising surprise after this. So 8 income streams of a rich artist. So first is personal brand. Like you have to build an audience. Luckily today with like algorithms, it's actually, in my opinion, it's never been easier to do personal brand. You basically just have to post. Now that's easier said than done, because in order to post, you actually need to clear your vessel. That's what I was saying, like give silence the first word. Because if you have blockages around your creative stuff, like a lot of people do, they just can't talk to the camera. They just can't do it, especially around what it is they're best at. You have to clear those blockages, but that's like fundamental step one. Once you've done that, there's unlimited ways to build a business. If you're doing the thing publicly that only you can do and you're doing it every day, you could do merch. You build an audience of true fans, right? Like people that, even if there's only 1,000 people that follow you, if all of them paid you $100 for like various products throughout the year, you're making 100,000 a year, right? And you're doing everything that only you can do and that gives you joy, right? So there's the merch and the clothing. There's brand deals. You can just get paid by aligned brands to promote a different product. That's something I used to do when I first started. And actually something that I'm getting back into. I'm working on going to reach out to Anthropic and see if they'll actually sponsor my Uluwatu experience, because there's definitely some alignment there. Another story, low ticket software. It's never been easier to build an app, right? To build a website with like a tool that you just envision, and you can use Claude Fable and it can just tell you what to do. It's just available. Like these resources are getting better and better every day, and they favor the visionary, right? They just favor the person that's like is tapped into these ideas. So the next is course community. Obviously you guys know this, but you can build a low ticket community. You can charge a consulting fee for whatever it is you're an expert at. This is like time old stuff, but I think it's worth like rehashing. If you're really good at something, you can build a community around it and charge for it. And especially if you're curating people together and making introductions. Next is affiliating other consulting offers or products. You can, if you're like, for example, I've sold like a, crypto investing mastermind, and I don't know anything about it, but my friend is like really good at it and advised like Iman and Andrew Tate and his whole stuff. So I just like sell his thing to my audience and we split commissions on it. The next is events. So you can build events, right? You can build your own, you can sell other people's events around, again, like what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? Right. And then the last thing I would mention is like, you kind of have to be careful about this one, but you can, if you have an audience, it doesn't even matter what the audience is. Like you could be a full-time musician and you could be like, hey, like raising, like you got to be careful with regulations, but you could be sourcing deals, or you could be like helping connect people that end up raising money, if that makes sense, for companies or even acquiring companies. You can introduce people that if there's a big transaction that happens between them, you get to take a percentage, right? So there's like a million ways to make money as a rich artist. Like if you're not making money as an artist, like just there's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways. And yeah, the vehicles just, they were never the problem though. The thing is, that's why I said like the ways to make money are always there. It's more so like the internal blockages that's the harder part, like clearing the sanskaras, as I said. And again, like this slide, it doesn't matter how you make money. Like you can just, or it doesn't matter how you get attention, as long as you have like real stuff. Sometimes you can always like convert people, to like you. So this is kind of like the original idea around like the 8 a.m. network. It's just these are the values, and this is what resonated with people, and this is what that is. So the last cheat code for now is surrounding yourself with rich artists, right? So you want to surround yourself with people that are pursuing that dream. This is why I've never been a huge fan of like being a Brickell balcony boy, because it seems to me like not really, they're kind of doing the copy paste thing in Brickell. They're just kind of doing what everyone else is doing rather than like really like full porting into a vision that they genuinely care about. You become who you surround yourself with. So I think it's just important to surround yourself with like really interesting creatives. So this is like an example, just a few examples. It's my friend Sage Willows. He's like literally a painter that makes millions of dollars a year as a painter. He's just like super tapped in and talented. Many of you might know Kriya Tyler. He's OG. He's actually just recently became Clav's creative director, Clavicular's creative director. So they're doing some work. They're in Mykonos right now. It's my friend Adam. Adam founded Utopia, among many other successful companies throughout the years. I'd say he's like a cultural influencer. This is a few weeks ago. This Liam Otley and Blondish. Liam Otley is like a big AI artist, I would say. And then Blondish, many of you probably know Blondish. We were discussing AI stuff. Blondish is very into that. And this is in Malibu. Marcel, he's the #1 hypnotist in the world. It's kind of like a young Tony Robbins. But I actually think he'll be bigger. Like Marcel's pretty dialed in. You compare his trajectory to Tony Robbins. Like it's actually, they're pretty similar, like age-wise, where they're both at. Yassine over there founded a company. They were doing like $1 billion a year in payments processed. Hunter Isaacson, who founded the NGL app and the Bags app. Brilliant, like one of the smartest people I've met in my whole life, Hunter, for sure. He's doing some pretty crazy stuff lately. So this is Lee, another artist. I would say this is in Ibiza. He has a company. He's definitely like a crazy artist. Like he has a clothing brand, and every t-shirt that he sells, every hoodie that he sells, he's able to donate 20 meals to starving kids. And he's fed over 1.5 million children that need food. Like he's provided meals for them. And he's incredible. Like Lee is amazing. Some other friends of mine, that's me and Grady, who's like an insanely talented music artist. He's actually like my #1 stream Spotify artist. His name's Grady. Tony Pillow there, just was at his wedding in south of France. He's like he has a production company. They work with like Drake and J. Cole. Jordan Welch and I, this is in Spain recently, we're working on a track. And that's Chloe, my fiance, at a Picasso museum, the one I mentioned earlier. So here's the cheat codes. If you want to screenshot this slide, perhaps it'll be useful to you. And these are here. So let me know if these were useful. Which one of these like hit you the most? So now we transition, guys, and I'm really excited for this part. So if you've been paying attention this whole time, I really appreciate you. This is where it gets really exciting, because I'm going to invite you into something that allows you to take all these cheat codes and use them all at once so that you can live the life of a rich artist. And it's called 8 a.m. World. And so there's two paths to enter 8 a.m. World. There's VIP and there's artist. And artist gets the creative singularity report, the 8 a.m. app, and the Uluwatu experience. And then with the VIP band, it is the creative singularity report and the 8 a.m. app. So what is it? What are these things these strange things we're looking at? So the first is the creative singularity report. Okay. So this is when Well, basically, we get on a call and we go over the questions that I've asked, hundreds of entrepreneurs at this point. And we go over like the very blockages that are getting in the way of you full porting into this vision. I've done this with music artists. I've done this with CEOs and founders making millions of dollars a year that have made tens of millions of dollars. And this is probably the most impactful and valuable, thing that I give people. One of the most impactful hours of your time, I would say, that you can do. Like, this is like years of IP packed into these questions, and then I create this report based off the questions. People pay me $15,000 a month for one-to-one consulting, so this is like a crazy opportunity here, and it basically maps your joy thermostat for you. It gets you crystal clear on your nonlinear like visions. It shows you where you're placing too much importance that you can decrease. And then it shows you the exact chain links to phase out of your golden handcuffs so that you can go into that creative singularity space full time. Now, the next, and this is probably what I'm most excited for today, is the 8 a.m. app. So 8 a.m. AI app, I should say. So before I show you a single feature, you guys can see it's like my 1 year goal right there in the center, and like my actual vision board on the right. I use this every single day myself, and it's been an absolute joy to use. So the first thing the 8 a.m. app does is it helps you create that AI vision board, much like the one that actually materialized in front of my eyes. Right now, keep in mind, this is something that comes from your divine perception, like you could say your connection to God, that you then just use the AI to like keep top of mind. Like you prompt it, it stores it beautifully. It has like style prompts that we put into it, and it just creates this beautiful AI vision. It also has an audio recording of your master vision, right? And so it's like a 3 to 10 minute, like just description of your vision for your entire life and what you want to create and how you want to live and the person you want to become and the role models that you see yourself becoming. And when you press the orb in the center, it starts spinning, and it plays 8 a.m. music in the background while hearing an audio like playback of your vision. Now, the cool part about it is it blocks other apps on your phone until you listen to the vision. Okay, so it basically forces you not to wake up and check Instagram. You have to wake up and just like listen to your vision first thing, and it gets you on the right track to start the day, because these phones are just so distracting. I had to do something about it. The next part that's really cool is AI member matching. Okay, so because it knows what everybody's life plan and vision is, we're able to match members together and show a matching score based on similar interests and also where you plan to travel this year. Okay, so it can actually like create really accurate, matches so that you can meet people and network with people that are, into similar things. Now, what also is really cool is the app helps you to, there's like a reflection element. So every Sunday, you set the one thing that you need to do, makes it really bite-sized and easy to follow. What is the one thing you need to do to hit that 1 year vision, to hit that 1 year goal for your creative vision? What's the one thing? And when you check it off, or when you fail to check it off, it actually notifies the 8 a.m. network. So you can see Zach needs some support because he didn't do what he was trying to do this past week creatively, and so he's then supported by everyone in the community. Right? Now you can also click on members and see what they're working on. You can see what projects they're going full porting into, and you can then message them and connect and see if you guys can help each other and if there's synergy. Okay. So this app, I designed it, from the bottom of my heart to help you to really unleash everything that only you were made to create. And it goes hand in hand with the Creative Singularity Report. The Creative Singularity Report you consider is like the deep dive. And then we take that deep dive, we build the vision. The 8 a.m. app helps you build the vision. And then you use it on a daily basis to keep you focused alongside a network of rich artists who are also full porting into their vision. So you've got the community element, you've got the app that's blocking other distractions so that you can stay focused. You've got the AI vision to visualize what it is you're actually building. And of course, this is just a digital layer that we've spoken about. When you join 8 a.m. World, when you enter, you also, of course, have the chance to meet everyone in the network in person. But for a week in October, this October 18th to the 23rd, on that cliff in Uluwatu I mentioned, you have the chance to meet everybody there on the cliff, right? So here's the villas. And the experience is about 3 months away. Okay, so we're really coming up on it. Now would be a really good time if you want to commit to this to sign up. I'm going to walk you guys through, the daily schedule. Okay, so basically what it's going to look like is it's a week of just creative unleash. You're going to wake up. There's going to be monastics that lead a morning meditation. We're going to get you to a peak creative state, and then you're going to be matched with members who will facilitate your creative vision. Like you're going to be, because we have everybody's vision and what they're working on, we can intelligently place people in the right villa together. We're going to go into like this creative state for several hours. We'll have the healthiest food available. You want a massage to like get out any cricks and get the energy flowing. We'll have that. And then of course, we have the health side. So around 2 p.m. after the first creative block and breakfast, we'll go to the gym, we'll work out together, and then we'll come back for the second several hour creative block, all the way up until dinner, and then a third one, and then repeat that basically for the entire week, culminating in the last day, which will be a festival, on this 200-foot cliff. So we'll have a stage out there. I'll be sharing, the 8 a.m. album number 2. Everyone else will be able to share what they've been working on. And it's just going to be, it's going to be incredible. And so every villa is going to turn into like a sanctuary of sorts, right? There's going to be a music production villa. There will be like a clothing brand villa. There will be a villa focused on Claude and AI and hackathon, building apps, like building whatever it is that, again, each member is going to have their own thing they're focused on. So they'll be designed for that. And again, the thing I want you to really like take in is that everyone that's attending this experience is doing that 1 hour creative singularity session with me. And so I'm getting a deep profile on every entrepreneur that's attending, and I'll be able to give them that report, give them the 8 a.m. app to start building out that vision. And then by the time we get to Uluwatu, everyone's intelligently matched with the right people. So it's just this like total creative explosion where everyone is unleashing the work that only they were made to create and collaborating alongside other rich artists. So as an example, right? Say there's like Liam Motley is attending. He's like one of the biggest AI YouTubers. If you look him up, I call him an AI artist. He wants to do music. Okay. He wants to like sing and rap. He was always doing music growing up. There's another guy named Ossian who has, a coaching business, and Ossian's like a signed music artist. So I'll put them together. So that way they can actually like help each other out. Right. So, and that synergy is going to be all around the entire property. It's kind of a vision of, what it's going to feel like. Think about this. Where else does this exist? Like where else in the world is there going to be like deep profiled people by me, and then given this report and given this app and the time to like all channel into this same vision? It just won't exist anywhere else. And then of course the massages, the beautiful Bali nature. This is kind of the vision here. So the first 25 people, what they get is that creative singularity report, a one-on-one call with me, okay, and one-on-one text access, and just you want to book in a call with me to just support you in this transition period you're in, plus a year access to the 8 a.m. network, okay, plus the 8 a.m. course archive. So just you get Tribe Accelerator, any other course I've made on income streams, making money, etc. Like all that stuff I throw in. Access to the 8 a.m. app for a year, the new one, of course. And then, pretty much as a bonus is the Uluwatu experience in October and a +1 included. So that's what the first 25 people get. All of this. Okay. And if you think about like the value here and the comparable value, there's masterminds. I think Cole Gordon's mastermind is like $80,000 a year or something. The 8-figure boardroom or whatever it's called. You've got like 35 grand for a call with Hormozy. And granted, these are probably super valuable. I have nothing wrong with these guys. I actually like both of them. But just giving you, comparable things. If you can compare to like Beyond Members Club, I think it's like 12 grand or 18 grand a year, something like that for trips. But that doesn't include any trips. That's just the membership. Okay. So you're getting all of this for 15,000 US. 15,000 US dollars. And a +1 included. Food included, the last day festival, everything. Year access, month of my time, 1-to-1. And we have 19 of 25 spots taken. We actually might be at 20 because a guy who's already in the 8 a.m. network reached out and he wanted to actually attend Bali. So it might be 5 spots left by now in that founding 25. And then basically what happens is, of course, the sooner you sign up, the more likely you're to get like a higher priority villa placement. Although all the villas are really cool, obviously some of them are a little bit vibier, so you'll just have like a better placement. And as we get nearer to the date, like we're just going to increase the price because we're 3 months away now. It's time to start booking stuff in like this, and we obviously have vendors to take care of. But yeah, for now, $15,000. Later on, to add a +1, it'll be $3,000. And if you're interested, you can just reach out to me on Instagram and just say, I watched the keynote and I'd like to go. So here's all the guys that have signed up already. And look, the main thing you're risking, guys, is really your calling. Like, this is a guarantee that you're going to go into the legacy that you're here to create. Like, if you invest in this is an investment into like that version of yourself that is unleashing everything only you can do. And here's some of the members that are there that are coming. So Aussie, and I mentioned he's a amazing music artist. There he is with his own billboard in Times Square. You've got Liam Otley, who's one of the biggest AI influencers in the world. Arthur Zargarian, who's like a crazy good serial entrepreneur. He's made millions of dollars. He has a company called parceltracker.com where they work with like Cambridge University and NASA as a client. And he has another company where it's called Atomic Growth. It's like a clipping company that does $1 million a month. And they work specifically with venture-backed companies, like founders that are trying to get clipped and grow their social. Some other guys coming. So Gabriel is like a fitness expert. He specializes in like energy maximization and just like physique maximization. You've got Raul, who's attending. He's from a family that has the largest copper and silver mining company in all of Chile, but he's also an FPV drone pilot, and he's actually building a SaaS as well. So he's like multi-talented, and he's actually also a model, which is kind of crazy. He's Chad. Then you have Lucas. Lucas is he has a 8-figure e-com brand. So there's a lot of killers in the group. There's guys making, look, I always say, like, I don't really care how much money people have made. It's more so, are you really aligned to that thing that only you can do? As I said, like, my parents are 2 of my biggest mentors, and they're not making much money. I don't care, right? Like, I just, those numbers, if you can't tell, the whole point of like this journey is it's not about, it's not about that, right? And so one thing I'd like to emphasize as well is, like, when you enter 8 a.m. world, it's not like it starts in October. It starts the second you join, because the first thing we do is that creative singularity session, 1-to-1. I give you the report, you take action on it, you download the app, you implement it in the app, and then you're working on that the next few months up until you arrive in Bali. We work on one-on-one together. You meet other guys in the network, and it starts now. It starts now. So if you want to join, guys, you can just reach out to me on Instagram at Arlin. Just say you watched the keynote, and I'll check you out. I'll see what you're working on. I'm obviously curating this and making sure it's a really good group of guys. And yeah. So if $15,000 is too much right now, obviously I understand it's not cheap, and we are targeting people who are generally already have some success and found that like the success isn't super fulfilling. But even still, maybe you're just not. Maybe you do resonate, but you're not there. You can get everything except the Uluwatu experience that I mentioned for $5,300. Okay, so you can join, and then what you can do is, let's say you just want to commit to that. You're not sure about Uluwatu yet, but you just want to join the network. You want to use the app. You want to get the one-on-one report with me. You can join that. It's $5,300, and that'll get you going on the same path. It just doesn't include Uluwatu. So that's option 2. And then if that's still out of budget, I understand, because it wasn't that long ago that I was shopping out of Zara. Like I lost all my clothes and I had no money, and like my whole neighborhood burned down. Right. So like, if you're into this and you want to support, and like you're like, I don't have thousands of dollars to invest, you can just go to 8amhouse.com and cop a hoodie. If you want to buy a hoodie, this one is available. They're French terry cotton. They're very nice. They take about 2 weeks to deliver. And it's a reminder, it's a reminder to ultimately just be who you were before the world told you who to be. So wearing the hoodie can help you in that direction as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the keynote. That's what I've been envisioning for the last very many years. I hope this was inspiring. I hope it was useful to you guys. What I'd like to do now is open it up to Q&A, but I also wanted to actually do an app demo. So I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to do iPhone mirroring, and I'm going to actually pull up the app. Let's see if I can actually do this. I think I can. Let's see. Let's see here. And I'm going to show you guys what it's actually like inside the 8am app. Let's see. Live Steve Jobs demo incoming. Okay. My face is in the way. That's kind of annoying, isn't it? Let's see here. Oh, here. Okay. Maybe I can just remove my face. Might be a little tricky. Let's see. Give me a moment, guys. Bear with me. This is actually why I saved this part to the end, because I didn't want it to be tricky. Okay, webcam. Whatever. Okay, well, you guys will just have to kind of see what's going on, and you'll have my face at the bottom.
This is the vision of Arlin. Arlin is a prolific...
Oh, right. Okay, hold on. Let's try that again. Could you guys hear that in the chat? Could you hear that if I play the audio from the phone? Just comment in the chat if you can hear the audio from the phone that I just played. Okay, cool. So first thing I'll show you guys is is when you listen to the vision.
This is the vision of Arlin. Arlin is a prolific genius artist billionaire. He unleashes his creativity and inspires people to find peace, joy, God, and freedom through his prolific, brilliant, artistic creations. He is a conduit for...
So you have your vision there. You have the 8 a.m. music in the background. Here's your vision board, right? So if you go to prompt, you could do like, let's see, garden party. Let's do POV, garden party at your countryside estate in the south of France. It has 8 a.m. music like throughout the entire app. And basically the way the vision board works is we have like we have like a prompt, you know, in it, so that all the visions kind of look and feel the same. You can also actually add images from your camera roll with this button. Over here, we have the community. So you can see, click here to see the other members in the group. You can see what Gabriel's working on. Click out, you could private message. Here's Cameron. Here's the edit profile. You can see Cameron said, I had one of the best days all year. The app is so powerful. And it really is. I mean, I've been using it every day, and it's very centering. And then let's see, if you click here, this is a new feature we just added, but it's actually a meditation. So you can choose your timer if you want to do just 10 minutes. It'll have quotes that are rotating. And then you just have a 10-minute timer here, which is nice because it tracks the time in meditation. Right? And you can map like how much time you're doing, and also because it has the reflection every single day and every weekend, you can kind of map your happiness levels over time, ranking, you know, how much time you spend in silence. Okay. If you go up here, another feature I didn't mention is the coach. So if there's anything you're going through, I built this like AI coaching feature that basically it's trained on like a knowledge base that is all of like the spiritual sort of texts and wisdom that I've been studying the past, you know, decade. And so it gives like super grounded, rather than like AI telling you what to do, it kind of directs you inward and to prayer. And I've just found it to be really useful. That's kind of like a, you know, I wouldn't say it's a main feature, but it's really nice to use if there's anything you need, you know, deep spiritual guidance on. And let's see. Yeah, so this is what we've been cooking, guys. I will say it's a joy to use, and it's just a start. It is just a start. So the app is designed, right, to actually leverage all the cheat codes that I mentioned in this keynote. Right? So you have everything I mentioned from this keynote. All of the cheat codes mentioned are applied into some version of the features inside, right? So if you surround yourself with rich artists, obviously that one is like you have this 8 a.m. network of people, rich artists that are going in on their vision. You have, you know, the attention dynamic and like the personal brand, like a mastermind where we do like, we also meet, by the way, you know, monthly calls with the community, and we'll go over like business strategy. phasing out on chain link. So this is actually what the creative singularity report is for. Aiming for prolificacy. So like when the app, the way that the app builds your vision, it obviously takes voice input and it listens to, it listens to your visions, but it takes into consideration what you feel your calling is, but it also focuses it like a certain way. Like it has a structure to the vision that gets you to focus on being more prolific in what you're creating. The creative singularity report shows you how to drop importance. And then of course, like the app blocker, like it gets you to really dial in on your vision and on your calling. Of course, the meditation is now built in as well. And the joy thermostat, that's in the report. So that is it today, guys. I hope that this was inspiring. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions and you're interested in joining at any level, just message me on Instagram and I'll send you the link. And yeah, just say you watched the keynote. And that's it. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Very much appreciate all of you. And I'll see you guys in the DMs.